Hi, it's Steve King, and I'm talking about fears, phobias, anxieties, and the potential role of atavism and miasms. Excerpted from my book, Rapid Recovery, Accelerated Information Processing and Healing. Dr. Roger Callahan of Thoughtful Therapy fame believes that atavism has some bearing on many of the phobias and anxieties that people suffer from. The dictionary describes atavism as a reversion to remote ancestral characteristics. In other words, a return to an earlier form. This idea appears to hold true for cellular beliefs and behaviors as well as physical characteristics. Regarding cancer, Robert Becker wrote, "The disease always arises not from an alien germ, but from a formerly normal cell of the host body, and the cancer cells are more primitive than their healthy precursors." Moreover, this atavism reflects the seriousness of the disease. The simpler the cells, the faster they grow, and the harder they are to treat, whereas a tumor that still resembles its tissues of origin is less malignant. Dr. Richard Gerber made an observation that I believe has a direct correlation to thought-field therapy, EFT and tapping, and the possible role of atavism. He said, from an evolutionary standpoint, it is interesting to note that in lower animals, such as reptiles, the pineal gland is still associated with the rudimentary third eye, complete with lens and retina-like photoreceptor. We all carry within us a genetic code that can include miasms, a crystallized pattern of karma, that is, whereby energetic tendencies inhabit genetic code, thus potentially predisposing us to particular diseases. Dr. Rudolph Ballantyne states that he sees miasms as the manifestation of unconscious belief systems, as well as archetypal psychological structures that actually furnish the underpinnings of our thoughts and ideas. Samuel Hahnemann, the German physician and the founder of homeopathy, he believes that miasms were in the mind and the organizational structure of the vital force, or élan vital, or the energy level of the individual. A certain mindset or a hidden mindset or energy state that actually allowed disease to take hold. Now, there are three types of miasm. One is planetary, two is inherited, three is acquired. We can therefore have inherited miasms of fears, phobias, traumas, etc. in our genetic blueprint, that is multi-generational. As an example, Dr. Roger Callahan believes that the fear of heights is an inherited fear in all land-based chordates. This is also supported by the work of Rupert Sheldrake. He did lab work with LSD. And so he stated that a chick, which would normally avoid an illusion of height, but when injected with LSD, would simply walk over it. The LSD apparently cures the fear of height, which may provide a plausible answer to why some LSD users would jump from windows. Clients who have a phobia that has no obvious origin will often report that a parent or grandparent has suffered from that same phobia. Excuse me. Dr. Hahnemann acknowledged an hereditary influence on chronic disease, and he referred to the miasmatic state as the underlying susceptibility primarily responsible for the various acute and chronic illnesses that people experience. It is now known, in fact, that the DNA of certain viruses can actually be incorporated into the genetic material of cells and thus be passed on to future generations. Some of the recognized planetary miasms would include things like exposure to radiation, to petrochemicals, and to heavy metals. We have to look no further than a couple of prime examples, which would be 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl. A hologram is an energy interference pattern wherein every piece contains a whole. every cell contains a copy of the master DNA blueprint. In order to understand the nature and relevance of the hologram, the so-called phantom leaf phenomenon is often mentioned, and that is whereby a torn leaf or part of a leaf is actually still shown to have the energetic pattern of the previous full leaf. This would seem to give further credence to cellular memory, consciousness, and of course DNA inheritance. This has actually been researched by luminaries such as Dr. William Emerson. He was the one who actually coined the term psychogenetic ancestral memories. Michael Talbot, another great writer on energy, he wrote about a 16-year-old with Brock's disease who was apparently healed through hypnotherapy. And he states that that was an extraordinary thing because, in fact, Brock's disease is a genetic condition, and getting rid of it involves more than just controlling autonomic processes such as blood flow patterns and various cells of the immune system. In fact, what it really means is that one has tapped into the master plan, the DNA programming itself. So it would appear that when we access the right strata of our beliefs, our minds can actually override even our genetic makeup. Now, again, excuse me, this would also suggest that the experience of the past has been fixed and retained by the neurons firing at that very precise moment. It was Wilhelm Reich, the famous psychoanalyst and the founder of the Orgone or Energy Institute. He actually referred to a distinct state of muscular tension, and he named it armoring, whereby any movement, circulation or body energy will actually stop flowing comfortably through the muscles in this state. Now, it would also suggest that armoring might well be the way we automatically therefore build bodily barriers to all physical and psychic wounds in life. So I urge you to think about those things and the role possibly of miasms and atavisms in fears, phobias, anxieties and traumas. I'm Steve King.